What is up, my fellow Ojamans? It's CryptJ1958, coming back with another deck profile. It's been a little while since I've uploaded. I've kind of been sporadic. I had somebody walk off with my backpack while I was running a tournament for locals and lost pretty much all of the decks that you've seen up until the Drytron deck. I still have that one, and I still have my frogs. But other than that, pretty much everything was taken. It was kind of sad. I've just been trying to build up my collection back. Um, so it's going to be a little bit, we're going to be doing maybe a few more openings while I try to build up a collection again, and then we'll do more deck profiles. I don't like doing deck profiles with proxies, so it's going to take a little bit to get all of the cards I need for the deck profiles that I want to do. But I was able to get this one. If you've been a fan of the channel, you know one of my favorite decks of all time is Skull Servants. Back in the day, I was running 60 card Skull Servant Lightsworn Shadal with That Grass Looks Greener. That was so much fun, and I've been trying to make it semi-competitive. Since then, 60 card just does not work. So this is a 42 card. This is still a work in progress. I'm working on switching out cards here and there to make it a little bit more consistent and be able to break boards, because this is a going second one-shot your opponent deck. So I'm still trying to work on how to fit in the breaking board cards in, such as like Lightning Storm or Droplets or things like that. But this is what I have so far, so let's get into the deck profile. So the first card we're going to talk about is the new card out of Blazing Vortex, and that is whightbaking. This card gives the deck so much utility. The biggest issue that we used to have is King of the Skull Servant was not searchable. So the idea was dump as much as you can into the graveyard, hope you hit a king and a Mizuki, and then go from there. But with whightbaking, you're able to just get the king to your hand. The way whightbaking works is if it goes to the graveyard at all, you can add 2 Skull Servant cards with different names to your hand, and then you discard 1 card from your hand. So usually you're adding King of the Skull Servant and, one of your other utilities, usually Prince, and then you're dumping Prince to get the thing from there. And then whightbaking also works as a hand trap. So if a level 3 or lower zombie monster would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can discard whightbaking instead, and then it triggers its effect going to the graveyard. It is a hard once per turn, so you're going to be using your send it to the graveyard through one of your other cards on your effect, or on your turn, and then its hand trap effect probably on your opponent's turn if you're not able to close out game. That's going to be the best way to keep it going. And then, of course, we're going to be running 3 of King of the Skull Servant. It's our boss monster, and the wording on this actually makes it better than some of the other monsters that have a question mark for the attack. Things like Grand Maju, if they get hit with an effect that halves their attack, it basically makes them go to 0. But because King of the Skull Servant says that its original attack becomes however many Skull Servants in the graveyard times 1,000, when it gets its attack halved, it's just half of whatever's it was before. So you can still, still beat over quite a bit. It's our boss monster. We love him. You can usually get him out pretty big. And with this setup I have right now, fairly consistently, I can actually get 3 of them out in one turn, and they're usually 6k or bigger. So it's a pretty nice setup so far. Of course, we're going to be running 3 of the Prince. This is one of your main combo pieces. If he's sent to the graveyard, then you can send a Lady in White and a Vanilla Skull Servant to the graveyard from the deck or your hand. And then while he's in the graveyard, you can banish him and 2 other Skull Servants to special summon a king directly from the deck. So to go with him, we're playing 3 of the Lady in White. If she's on the field, level 3 or lower zombies cannot be targeted except for her. And if you can get 2 of them out, then your kings are pretty much immune to everything. The OG vanilla Skull Servant. And then for the Skull Servants that we're not running at 3, I'm running 2 Princess. Princess has a few different abilities. If she's normal or special summoned, she sends a prince from the deck to the graveyard. And then if she's in your hand or on the field, as a quick effect, she can tribute herself, and she lowers the attack of all monsters on the field by 300 times their rank or level. So I've actually used that. I baited out Boro Savage negates, and then sent her to the graveyard to lower it down to right around 1500 based on what it was equipped to, and then brought out a 10k King of the Skull Servant and got game in one turn. And then the last card is Whitemare. He is very situational. You send him to the graveyard to get one of your banished Skull Servants and put it back into the graveyard, or get one of your banished Lady in White and special summon it. Usually what I do is if I've already used Prince's effect twice and I have 2 of the vanillas in grave, I'll banish Prince and 2 vanillas and then send him to get one of the vanillas back. So I really only lost 1 name in the graveyard, and I got a free king. And then if I normal summon another king, that's just 2 really strong kings on the field, which is usually what I use him for. So if I already have a prince in hand, I'll search Whitemare off of whightbaking. We only need the 1 because it is now searchable, which is so nice. That rounds up our Skull Servant, so we're going to go into generic zombie support. So I'm running 1 Plague Spreader and 3 Mizuki. If you're not running Mizuki, you aren't actually playing a zombie deck. Mizuki is so good, you banish it from the graveyard and special summon a zombie from your graveyard. So that's kind of how we get 3 kings out fairly consistently. That actually wraps up all of our zombies. It is really monster heavy. That's one of the downfalls of the deck, so consistency is an issue, and I am working on it. We're going to go into the second half of the deck here. So we are running a small Lightsworn engine, running 3 Raiden and 1 Lumina. This is mostly just to get a tuner and a non-tuner on the field. That should be pretty self-explanatory. And then also Lumina lets us pitch a card from our hand, so we can trigger off one of our whightbaking or Prince. And then Raiden mills 2. So it just helps us dig deeper into the deck and gives us those 2 specific types on the field that we need. And that is all of the monsters. For the spells, to complete the Lightsworn engine, 3 charge, 2 solar. Because we have such a small amount of Lightsworns, 3 solar recharge is just too much. You're not always going to have a Lightsworn to discard. For the cost, seeing it at 2 is kind of rough sometimes, because a lot of the times I see it, I top deck it when I'm forced to grind a little bit and I need something that'll let me get to the king. That's usually when I see it. So 2 might be a little bit too much. I'm still messing with it, but right now this is kind of what I'm running. And then for digging into the deck, card destruction, I really wish this was at 3, because the next 2 cards I'm playing are not as good. And if I could see this at 3, it would just be so much fun. I've had people argue saying that Trickstar Reincarnation is at 3, so this should be at 3. But to kind of counter that, Reincarnation is a trap, so it has to be set for a turn. But my argument for card destruction coming to 3 is we have things like Ash. We have plenty of negations. Most boards put up 5 to 10 negates easy, so we could probably have it back at 3, and the only deck that it would probably see play in is decks like this that are just trying to get stuff in the graveyard as much as possible. But the next card that I would replace for more card destructions is Perform a Palpauper Up. You can discard up to 3 cards and then draw that many cards. And then you take 1,000 points of damage equal to the number of cards in your hand, which is what I don't like about it, because a lot of times that, 3K, that 3 to 4K that you took makes the difference in the match. And a lot of times getting rid of your whole hand is better than getting rid of a few cards, just because the more cards we can discard, the more cards we can trigger. So that's kind of the thought process behind that. The next draw card, we're doing Hand Destruction. Again, just so we can get stuff dumped to the graveyard so we can trigger off their effects. And then dig deeper into the deck. And then 2 Dark World Dealings. Same concept. It lets us draw, lets us discard. Both of them let your opponent draw and stuff, so that could be kinda iffy, especially with a droll running around. But if they see that you're playing a few of these, they might not droll you just so they can keep drawing and get to their other combo pieces in case you can't kill them. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, but it helped with the consistency so much. And then for our 1-ofs, 1 for 1, again, pitch and summon. You can throw down a White Prince and summon a king. The White Prince triggers, you get a 3K king off of 1 card without really anything else. Foolish Burial, again, we're dumping stuff to the graveyard. And then Monster Reborn just to round everything out. So that is the main deck. For the extra deck, there's a lot of things that you would think you'd see in here. So we got Link Karibo, Anima. I do have Board Blocker here, just a generic Link 2 that you can go into if you need to. Then we're running 2 Halki Fibrax. Again, that gets Plague Spreader out. You can use Raiden and Lumina. Gets Plague Spreader, and then you can go into one of the rank 3s, and then go into a rank 4 and kind of clean up that way. We are running the Nightmare package, Cerberus, Phoenix, and Unicorn. Unicorn is one of the Link 3s you can go into off of Halki. The other one is Trisbania, just to wipe the field. And then for our Link 4s, we have Appaloosa and Access Code. And that kind of rounds up our Link monsters. Usually if you can bait out all the negates and then get the Raiden and Lumina on the field, with enough cards in graveyard, you can end with a King of the Skull Servant that's at least 5K and a 5300 access code with no cards on your opponent's side of the field, and you can just blow them out. It's pretty nice. And then for our synchros, we got Wonder Magician, just in case you're not able to get Plague Spreader and go the access code route for whatever reason. We have a Michael, F8 on Dragster, and Black Rose. I actually used this in a tournament the other day. They had a bunch of back row. I went into Raiden and Lumina, just synced off, made Black Rose, and blew up the field, and then was able to banish Mizuki, get King out, and do damage in time in game 3. So Black Rose is still pretty fun if you can make rank 7 or level 7s. So it's not a card that sees play very often, so if you can pull it off, it's kind of fun. Not many people see it coming. And if they don't react the right way, then they're basically screwed. It was a lot of fun. That's the deck profile. I've been goofing off with it for a little while since whightbaking was announced. Um, so yeah, it's one of my favorite decks. I love it so much. Just let me know what you guys think. If there's anything you would change or add to potentially make it better. Yeah, just let me know. Make sure you give a like, subscribe, comment. Let's have a little bit of a conversation, and I will see you guys in the next video.